I'm Matthew Ramsden, and I'm an open source engineer with a background in iOS development. And today I want to give you a quick introduction into how to get started with LDK Node for iOS. I have a full open source example of an iOS app that uses LDK Node built in Swift and SwiftUI, and we will build a very simplified version of that today. This introduction is how to get started with building an iOS app using LDK Node. At the end of this quick tutorial, we should be capable of paying a Lightning invoice. LDK Node is a ready-to-go Lightning Node library built using LDK, the Lightning Dev Kit, and BDK, the Bitcoin Dev Kit. That means LDK Node builds upon the very powerful LDK API and wraps an included BDK on-chain wallet to create a much simpler API that can be used to set up your self-custodial Lightning node. LDK Node is written in Rust, but also provides a number of language bindings for mobile environments like iOS. And we'll be using the Swift language bindings today to pull LDK Node into our iOS app as a Swift package. I also wanted to show one last thing before we start. Tinol is a great engineer who did so much excellent work on LDK Node. And he also set up an additional helpful resource that we will use and reference quite a bit in this tutorial. And here's the website he set up for it. Let's get started setting up our project. We can just create an iOS app, and we can add the LDK Node dependency to our iOS app project using the URL from the LDK Node GitHub repository. Let's create a Lightning Node service that will encapsulate all of our LDK Node functionality and then start our node in the root of our app. So the steps to set this up are to use the builder provided by LDK Node, which has really good defaults to use, but we will override two of them, which are setting the network to reg test and setting the Explorer server to the website that I referenced earlier, ldk-node.tinol.de. We'll also add a start function in the Lightning Node service. We'll call the start function when our app initializes. And just a note for the rest of the video, since this is a tutorial for how to quickly get set up, we will defer production level error handling and such things like that. I just wanted to make a note of that up front, so when you see explicit unwrapping or print statements and so on. Okay, perfect. So let's start with something simple like seeing the node ID of our Lightning node we just set up. The steps to do this are to add a node ID function in the Lightning node service, to add get node ID function in our content view model, and to add a text view to show the node ID in our content view, and also call our view model's node ID function. Perfect. We can see our node ID on screen and also print it out there as well. So another thing we can do is show our on-chain funds. We can also go get some sats in our wallet by getting an on-chain address and getting some sats from ldk-node.tinol.de. The steps we'll take to do this are add a get spendable on-chain balance sats function in the Lightning Node service, add a new funding address function in the Lightning Node service as well, and then add a get spendable on-chain balance sats function in our content view model, and also do the same for our new funding address function. And then we'll show those on screen by adding a text view to show the on-chain balance in our content view, and call our view models get spendable on-chain balance sats function when the view appears. We'll also add a text view and a button where we call our view models new funding address function to show a new funding address in our content view. And so we're going to also use the faucet at Tinol's website to get some sats at the end here. Awesome, we have 1,000,000 sats now. So now that we have a spendable balance, we can use it to create a Lightning channel. But first, let's start by connecting with that peer. The steps we'll take are to add a connect function and a list peers function in the Lightning Node service. Then also add a connect function and list peers function in our content view model. And then add a connect button in our content view that calls our view models connect function, as well as adding a list peers button in our content view that calls our view models list peers function. And now let's open a channel with that peer we're connected to. To connect our channel counterparty, there's a few parameters that are needed. So just quickly, we can go over them. We need the node ID, the actual network address of the counterparty, how many sats we want to have in the channel, how many millisatoshis we're going to push initially to the counterparty side, and if we want to announce the channel. So let's write the code that we can do this, and we're basically going to add a connect open channel function in the Lightning Node service, add that connect open channel function in our content view model, and then add an open channel button in our content view that calls our view model's connect open channel function. And then we're actually just going to use ldk-node.tinol.de to open a channel to us. So let's go ahead and start that. Great, so now our channel's open. Let's pay an invoice is our last step. We need to grab a payable invoice, and then we will just paste it into our send payment function we create. So the steps we're going to follow here are add a send payment function in the Lightning Node service, add a send payment function in our content view model, add a send payment button in our content view that calls our view model's send payment function, and then we'll go get an invoice from ldk-node.tinol.de and then use it in our view model's send payment function. Amazing, there's our payment hash, and we can see that there's a payment there, and then we can also actually verify it on the website. Yeah, this said we paid the invoice in 33 seconds. So this was a brief intro into how to get started with LDK Node on iOS. We went through all the necessary steps to set up a Lightning node with LDK Node on iOS and pay our first invoice. I hope you found that interesting, and if you want to go further, I've written an open sourced code around this. Monday, an open source LDK Node iOS app built in SwiftUI. In developing a Lightning wallet for iOS, a quick guide to using LDK Node with Swift. And if you want to check out how to do all of this in the Rust language, check out Tinol's great tutorial, Getting Started with LDK Node in Rust. Thanks.